Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good, presented by Betches Media. Today is a good day. Hey, we're broing out today. I don't know. Don't roll your eyes when I say that, but we have two of the hosts of one of the best Bravo podcasts out there. Period. They cover everything. OC, Potomac, RHONY. I just forgot what Salt Lake City, and I'm sure they're going to be covering Beverly Hills, which premieres tonight. They are the one, the only Shooter and Steele, the BravBros. Welcome back to the show, guys.
Guys night, let's go.
Guys night.
We are always so excited to do a guys night. It's always nice. Just throw it out. Just talking about the Housewives with the bros.
Yeah, this is how the Lord intended, for a bunch of dudes to sit around talking about their favorite housewives.
Correct.
Damn right. And we are so excited to do it with our favorite fellow Brav bro, Ryan Bailey himself.
I'm an honorary Brav bro. There is so much happening in the Bravo universe, and I guess my first question to you guys, is there too much happening in the Bravo universe? Because this week we are inundated, and then at the end of the week we have a Married to Medicine season premiere on top of the Beverly Hills premiere. Is it too much?
I don't know. I think it could be. If we are in the same position that we were in earlier this year, where we are scratching and clawing for any good Bravo content because they decided to double, triple, quadruple up around this time of the year, I am going to regret it. But I will never, ever, ever apologize for too much Bravo to intake.
No, and I think that after the lull that we had in the summer, where we were there was nothing to really sink our teeth into.
Yep.
The fact that we now have 4 Housewives shows with Beverly Hills coming out tonight, there are 3 of 4 performing at an exceptional level right now. It is such entertaining TV. We are excited to watch it week to week, that's kind of our barometer.
Yeah.
Is like, because when you watch all of these shows all the time, some of them do start to drag. 3 of the 4 are firing on all cylinders, and we are stoked to talk about it. So I agree with Shooter. If we do end up hitting a snag and then down the line we have this big gap in between shows, I will regret it. But for the time being, the fact that we have OC doing so well, Salt Lake's doing so well, Potomac looks like it's finally back to where it's supposed to be. We're getting inundated with comments and with reviews of people that are just loving us hate listen to RHONY, so we can't stop. They're literally it's so fun listening to you guys hate this show. I know.
I didn't want to guess that you thought the 4th show that wasn't really up to snuff was RHONY, but I guess you just buried the lead. And why do you think? I mean, I've watched every episode of this season. Listen, I think it was a really bold move to do a prank on a show this past week's episode where they said Rebecca Minkoff is a swinger and got pregnant by another dude at a swinging party. And then at the end, really just like had her and Aaron giggling about it really quickly. It was so bizarre. And I thought, wow, are we at the point where they're doing pranks where they don't even let the audience in until the very last second? And then it deflated the entire episode. Why do you think RHONY isn't firing on all cylinders this season?
Well, I think that last episode is a microcosm for the entire season. The entire season is a joke. There's just nothing going on right now.
But I like them individually, kind of.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. Individually, I think that they're all okay. If we were to meet them somewhere, we might think that they're interesting. They have some interesting stories. Raquel in particular is a very interesting woman. I want to see more of her. I want to understand more about what she's about. So if they do go a different direction with the cast at the end of the season, do not touch Raquel, because I think she has so much to offer. But there is no dynamic between them. There is no history. There's no backgrounds. There's no friendship, really, that you can really get into. And then when that happens, if there are issues, if there are arguments that need to be had, they're not able to captivate us as an audience because we don't care. We don't know where you're coming from. We don't care that you're still complaining about an Uber ride back with Jenna who didn't pay for it, because we don't care about your dynamic as friends. We're not worried about whether or not you guys are ever going to make up, because we don't care to begin with. And I think that they never really established a good rapport last year or early this season. They just kind of started off this year with a lot of different petty arguments that didn't really draw us in, that didn't really make us care about what they're doing. And on top of all of that, they're not sharing any of their personal stories. They're too afraid to get down and dirty and to show us who they really are, because they all have personal brands that they want to be able to promote. And that's that. In my mind, I think that's the issue.
It's turned into like a big marketing.
You really thought about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan, we have been doing this, like we said. Our audience has held us hostage this entire season. It is destroying us. We had this last year with OC, but the difference is OC, we could pick and choose and just say, you know what, they're doing things wrong. With RHONY, we're just not interested in it, but our audience absolutely loves us doing it week to week.
It drives us crazy, but at the same time, to like build on what Shooter said, it's tough because when there's like little moments throughout the season and you see it where they get into an altercation, you're like, ooh, all right, let's run with that. But instead of them getting further into it, let's talk, Bryn and Uba, when they start to get into it a little bit.
No.
Right.
Sorry.
But that's not, no, it's fair because that's not with Uba in the room. It's like, all right, you're sitting across the table and the Hamptons hash this shit out. Let's see what happens. Let's see what comes from this. But they shy away from it. Another small moment is people are talking about Jessel and Pavitt are going to therapy. Jenna's the one that said, you guys should go try couples therapy. I've been trying with my fiance. Where's the conversation of Jenna talking about therapy with her fiance? We don't get to see any of that.
Well,
she
refuses to share that aspect of her life, Jenna.
Then why do we see her mom? Why do I see the fiance's mom, but I can't see the fiance? That's stupid. It's just all so trivial that I can't get invested in this show. And I rooted for it. No big deal, but we were quoted in the New York Post of saying, like, we root for this show. We
right
did.
Underneath the Diddy story, you guys were quoted.
Whoa. Whoa. No, but like, we rooted for this show. And before the season started, I thought they did enough last year to get a season 2.
Yeah.
And I 100%. Thought that individually, I do think that these are very successful women. They're interesting women. They have really interesting backstories. They do interesting things with their lives. The one scene we get of Jenna being the editor-in-chief, okay, let's talk about that stuff more. But when it comes to getting actual substance, it falls flat. You have Sai, who in a season where we need somebody that's ready to start conflict, that's somebody that's ready to jump into things and get dirty, Sai's in her Zen era. And it's like, all right, good for you for your personal life, but at the same time, bad for us. And the biggest thing that hangs over them is they're coming into a franchise that set the bar so high with Sonia, Luann, Ramona. You have some of the greatest housewives of all time that did not care what the public perception was. They were 100% themselves, good, bad, or ugly.
It's hard to compete with the ghosts of RHONY past, obviously,
Definitely.
but also, you point out a great point that we are in this day and age where everything is paid attention to: social media, hot mic moments, what you say in the press, what Instagram posts you like, and it is frustrating. And the one person that I'm so confused by is Bryn, because Bryn is acting like she's in the old RHONY cast, but I also don't think it's fair to just flat out lie about other cast members or try to create division between Jessel and Jenna Lyons by just flat out making up something, saying like Jenna called Jessel a basic bitch. And we see the phone call where Jenna was like, I don't want to go that far, like very tongue in cheek, but I still don't understand. I don't know if Bryn is just trying to make a good show based on reality shows she's seen in the past, because I also don't understand Bryn's actual life. We know her brother, we know her we know aspects of her story, but like if you're going to have a rumor about, that's brought up on Jeff Lewis or something saying that you might, have a sugar daddy, well, let's talk about that. I want to know about your dating life. I want to know who you're dating instead of her just trying to cause issues that are based on lies, because if everybody else isn't participating, it really makes Bryn stand out, and I think in a not great way.
I think that Bryn showed up this season and they looked at the game film from last year, and Bryn showed up and said, I need to do some homework. I need to do some research on what makes shows like this good. And she was trying. And when Steele and I were just searching for anything to compliment them on, one of the things that we said was, well, it looks like Bryn's trying to do something, like maybe throw a wrench somewhere in there. But once she starts fabricating things, and obviously, this past episode, the entire thing was a fabrication. Once she starts making stories up to try to drive some sort of drama, it doesn't work anyway, because you're doing it to people that aren't going to get into it, that want to just kind of like have it blow over. So I don't know. It's a mess right now.
You're putting a hat. We said it in like acting class back in the day. Like you're putting a hat on a hat.
Yes.
Like, you know, if Bryn is actually making up things, and then we have a whole storyline about a fake pregnancy at a swingers thing, you're putting a hat on a hat. How many fake things can you acknowledge in an episode? And then it makes me curious about the production of it. Like, what are the producers thinking? What are they going for? Because maybe are they going for more like of an independent film vibe where we're just supposed to enjoy the vibe instead of the actual storyline?
Yes.
And that's what I'm curious, like, because by the way, if they admit that, like, I just have to adjust my adjust my expectations, because I do like them, but I'm very confused at this point.
I think that's a good way to put it, is they're relying on like the vibe, like, oh, they vibe, and like, oh, that's a different kind of RHONY, and oh, it's a different kind of Housewives show. But there needs to be a direction. There is no direction. They're not pointed towards anything. I don't know what the common goal is. I don't know what they want us to be getting from this show. Like you said, is Bryn trying? Yeah. Is it falling flat? Yeah, especially because the rest of the cast is not trying, so it makes it even more obvious.
Yeah.
And it's all fake stuff at the same time. And then you get this, and of course, before I even saw the RHONY episode, because we were backlogged trying to get things out, I'd heard that this was a prank. So I'm watching this whole entire episode. Yep. Like, I don't even need to pay attention, because this is nonsense.
It was like bad acting. And then on top of that, I think they all knew it was a prank. I almost think it was like, because Sai had that hot mic moment with Jeff Lewis talking that Rebecca Minkoff was boring this season. So I almost thought, was this like a kind of gift to Rebecca Minkoff to have her seem sort of exciting, to have this rumor about her, because we found out at the end Rebecca was in on it. So like, was this like kind of a, hey, we're going to give you a fun little moment here, and it just spectacularally backfired?
Talk about Scientology. Talk about Scientology.
She won't. We can't talk about Scientology. We can't talk about Scientology. Then she said, see, that's another thing. I would love, you know how long I've waited to have an actual Scientologist on a housewife show that would actually talk about the religion? And we can't talk about the book Going Clear, which I loved. We can't, like, I have read Dianetics. Like, it's really hard to get through.
Insane.
I would love for her to explain.
We need to start a club, Ryan. Scientology is so fascinating to me. I know way too much about it. No, it is,
yeah.
It's so fascinating. We have a Scientologist, and the only question that we got is, how do you want us to handle this with the media? Who gives a shit? Fucking ask her about Scientology. Don't be worried about the backlash. This is what you signed up for. You have a built-in storyline that everyone's curious about, because a lot of people don't know about Scientology. Just speak on it.
It's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity. And it's always, you know, like, as you study these shows more of pop culture, you look into like PR, and Scientology has like some really interesting PR, where Rebecca Minkoff's answer about Scientology is the exact answer that every Scientology gives, from Tom Cruise to John Travolta, of read a book,
do some research,
do this, watch the TV channel. Like, no, we have you here. Why don't you explain it and show us why it's such a great thing in your life? And I swear to God, I think it would actually have a more positive reaction towards Scientology if somebody like her could explain it. But the same old answer that you get from Tom Cruise is just, it makes it even more mysterious, and not in a good way.
Yeah, but sometimes making things very mysterious.
All hail Xenu, by the way. All hail Xenu.
All hail Xenu. And Steele and I talk about our Thetan levels all the time, because we want to make sure. I'm still not sure if I need more or less, but you know, I'm going to figure it out.
Oh, you need more.
I know that I'm not going to hear it from Rebecca. So that's at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. And the funny part is, and Steele and I didn't even get to talk about this, because we didn't really get to talk about the last episode. We were at the point, because we were so bored with this show, with everything going on, I was going to start making up storylines, because every single episode that we did, one of us had said, if you just did this and started down this path, and then maybe this came into play, we were basically writing the show for them.
Yeah, that's what you do. You start producing the show in your head when you start to like dip out on not to use a Tom Sandoval quote, but when you start dipping out, you start going, oh, how would I improve this? Or what could be exciting? And there are so many different things. And obviously that's Monday morning quarterbacking, right? That's a sports term for you guys.
Sports. Guys, nice. Let's bro out. But we didn't even have to do that. I've been threatening to do it for weeks, that I was just going to make up a storyline and we were going to recap a completely different show. They did that for us last week. So that just shows you where they are.
Yeah, no, I mean, We'll move on from here, but I just think it's I'm really curious where it lands, and I pay attention to the ratings every week. Now, of course, this doesn't include, Peacock and streaming, but the ratings are now like kind of getting to that place where Dubai was or Summer House Martha's Vineyard. And I'm like, will RHONY get a third season? I think, yeah, just because they put so much money into the promotion of making these women like, because, you recognize all the women. And I will say they do seem to talk to each other in the off season, because I've listened to interviews on other shows that these ladies will do, and they do seem to be in each other's lives. So you're almost kind of banking on investing in these people. So if a Scandival level event occurs, then it'll really pop off,
I think that the only damning thing for me is when you have Jeff Lewis on Watch What Happens Live, and he and Andy both say, we don't like pranks. That's damning for an entire cast. When both of them are like, because you're talking about two of like the bigger name. Obviously, Andy's head honcho here, and Jeff Lewis, obviously a big name in this world. When both of those guys are saying, we don't like that, that's tough to come back from.
I think we all said it. I mean, I think we all felt it. We all saw it once we saw the
episode.
That was
the stupidest shit I've ever seen. Like, you literally based a whole entire episode on a bullshit rumor that also, because we don't know Rebecca Minkoff at all, even as this is being presented to us in the beginning, I'm like, why do I really care? Like, she's been on screen for
And then
30
you have the
seconds.
balls to put in a Wicked promotion halfway through the episode. You have the balls. Like, I was like, yo, you are going to have the balls to give me an in-episode ad? Like, I was like, this is insane. Like, no offense to Wicked. I'm sure it's going to do very well, but, like, I don't think
Wicked will be fine without RHONY. Like, they don't need the RHONY promo and all 100,000 people watching.
The RHONY bump from Wicked, yeah.
Yeah, with the series low viewership. Yeah, that'll really do it for Wicked.
It was a tough episode.
I will say, though, like I said, I love Abe and Aaron's dynamic. I want to know more about, selling the Bitcoin. Pavitt. Also, I'm just so confused. If Pavitt says he doesn't want a kid, I feel like the conversation kind of is over no matter how much therapy you go through. And I think at the same time,
be a conversation is the problem. He didn't have, he said, there is no kid, conversation over. Pavitt needs to be able to have the conversation because he ended up looking like a dickhead. And he, up until that point, had been like the comic relief. And now I'm like, oh, you're just dismissive to your wife. That's not fun to watch. It's a conversation that you can have in therapy, but he's just like taking pictures of his food while she's trying to like talk about having a third child. And he's like, look at this dumpling. It's like, dude, look at your wife.
I know. And I don't know. I can't tell what's put on for cameras with these people and what's not. So it's like, I know there's a mix of both sometimes, of play it up for the camera, but at some time when you play it up so much, it just gets uncomfortable. And then you worry about the people involved, just kind of like, I will say with Bronwyn and Todd from Salt Lake City, where, the Todd father came out on the first episode, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'll give him one. I'll give him one where he says, this is enough. You got to leave if you're going to leave. I'm like, okay, that's fun to see. We haven't seen that in a minute, but you can only do it once. And then the next episode, he does the same thing. And then the preview for this week, it looks like he comes down on Bronwyn again. And now I'm worried that this is potentially their real dynamic. What do you guys think about their relationship on Salt Lake?
We just talked about this. So first off, we do want to say we disavow the amount of husbandry. What was the word you used, Steele? Husbandry?
Far too much husbandry going on.
Husbandry. There was so much of it in the last 2 episodes. We don't want that the entire season. So we do need to put that away. But with Todd,
wait. Do you have any proof, biatch, for that?
Exactly.
Is Lisa Rinna your background?
Yes,
it is. Yes, it is. This has been by the way, this has been my background for like 12 years. This has been like, I shit you not, I have never changed my background. It's Lisa Rinna saying, do you have Coke in your bathroom? That's great.
Phenomenal.
That's absolutely incredible. But yes, we do agree. We just talked about this on our show a little earlier. Todd and Bronwyn, we agreed early on. Todd looks like just a nice, jovial old man in his cat sweaters, just having a good time. He's absolutely loaded. Very interesting life. Once he starts coming down on his wife, we're like, nope, we don't want to see it. And you know what? When she's sitting at that dinner talking about the dynamic of their relationship and everything going on, one, she's giving way too much ammunition to the other women, because we already had Brittany call out Are you just in this for the money? Do you have a prenup? And it got under your skin immediately. If Brittany's getting under your skin that easily, and you give this ammunition to the other women, you are in for a very, very hard time for the rest of the season if they want to use that. But we don't want to see it. We definitely don't want to see Todd talking down to her. We don't want to see him completely just cutting her off or throwing people out of cast trips. Can't see any of that. Just don't show up. If you don't know what this is, and this was your first instance of, oh shit, what did I get myself into? Then go away. Let Bronwyn handle it. Pop up now and again. Just throw on a smile and then walk out and go do your business. We don't want to see you do that to your wife. But that is probably the dynamic of their relationship after what we saw at that dinner party. And Steele and I agreed, if that's okay for the two of you, we don't want to see it. That's the main thing. We're all right with accepting it because that's what you want to do, but we don't want to see it week in, week out.
Yeah, I made a TikTok the other day from one of our episodes last week because we both took issue with how he discussed kicking out Lisa and John from the house, because I noticed her demeanor changed, like when he walked in, like she kind of like, because she's very capable of standing on her own 2 feet and telling people
she's great at it.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. She's great with wordplay, like puns. Like, she's really good. She's a fantastic housewife. We really have enjoyed Bronwyn thus far. But watching that scene with Todd where he's like, I told you I wasn't going to do this weekend. Like, this is ridiculous. I've had enough in 3 hours for the whole entire weekend. It's like, you invited a bunch of reality TV stars to your vacation.
I don't think he knows what show she signed up for.
You are a prevalent, prominent businessman that does your research. Watch one episode of a cast trip and get to know what the fuck you're in for. But I didn't like seeing it last week. I called it out. I said I thought that the whole interaction was gross. I didn't like how he talked to her. It was demeaning, belittling. It felt more like a dad coming down on his daughter than a husband on a wife. And a lot of people agreed with me, and a lot of people were like, you just don't get it. That's just a different generation, which I think is a crock of shit. I don't think that's an excuse for people anymore. I think that if you're married to somebody you care about, you don't talk to them like that. Fast forward to this week as I'm watching them at the dinner table, and he literally cuts her off, goes, we're done. I said, we're done. I'm like, dude, fuck off. Honestly, like, you just embarrassed her in front of her entire party. This weekend's for her. This 10-year anniversary thing, it's not for Todd. He doesn't give a shit. He's going to grab a $4 million necklace and drape her in it so he can go back to work on the following Monday and be away from her. He doesn't give a shit. So instead of belittling your wife on TV in front of everybody because you're too good for this show and you didn't know what you got yourself into, just shut up, take a back seat. But instead, you literally embarrassed your wife to the point that she goes to a confessional and says, I was expecting to be embarrassed by the women, not by Todd. So I think,
and it's more ammunition for the other women. It's because then you see that Heather Gay is going to get involved, and she's going to now give her 2 cents. And it is one of those things, if you think of Housewives as a game, where like you know, you're giving ammunition to all of these people when the conversation should be about what's going on with Lisa and what going, like, you know, because I do agree with Bronwyn about what she's saying about like Lisa Barlow and not standing up for her as a friend. And then we make the conversation now about their relationship. And I think a lot of people are also the misconception of comparing them to Erica Jane and Tom Girardi. Yeah. I do think it's a little different in the sense that I do think Todd's business is completely on the up and up. And also Todd's not a showman the way that Tom Girardi tried to be a showman. He's just grumpy and is like, I do things my way. And I think he's going to have to learn. Dude. Well, I mean, I think he's going to have to learn really quickly. And if not, I do think it's going to cause trouble in their relationship because I think she's automatically got a second season.
Oh yeah, she's definitely set herself up for a second season. Not only that, we do power rankings every now and again. We've got Bronwyn number 2, maybe even number 1. And that's where she's been. She has been such a great newcomer. She's learned the game. She's been knocked down a couple times on that trip to Milwaukee. She learns the game very quickly. Called out something that we all think as fans, everybody's doing the exact same thing. Why am I getting shit for it? I don't really understand this. And we see how that reaction just kind of goes through the entire group. She's learning on the fly how to play this, and she's been such a strong newcomer, such a strong player for this show. She's absolutely 1,000% earned the second season if she wants it. As long as we don't get to see a little, all right, you know what? This was your pet project, Bronwyn. We're done with it. I'm not dealing with this anymore. And if there is blowback on whatever the business that he's trying to run over there, and he starts getting involved in things like that, he's going to immediately shoot it down. So that is something that I've been worried about. I just don't know how that would play out.
It is interesting, you guys, and I do as well, but we talk about these so seriously. But at the same time, I want to say that out of all the Housewives shows on the air right now, Salt Lake is the one that feels like it's set in a completely different timeline or universe. I mean, it is so bizarre to me. It is like that's, you got that ridiculousness, but you also have Lisa Barlow giving a monologue about like, I haven't flown coach since college. And you're like, what? What? I mean, it is amazing from a housewife, but it's so, my brain has a hard time computing that this is an actual living, breathing person. You're like, oh, that's so funny. Like Arrested Development, like it's a TV show. And then you're like, oh, fuck, this is really real. I mean, Lisa Barlow, I always say, I rarely agree with her, but I love her dearly. But I mean, to me, what do you think makes Lisa Barlow tick?
I think Lisa Barlow ticks for Lisa Barlow. It's all about image. It's all about what she wants when she wants it. She has the uncanny ability. It's similar to Whitney. They're more similar than they think because they both believe whatever they believe is true. They truly do. And it doesn't matter if there's evidence to the contrary. Lisa will be in the right. Yeah, like the fact that Lisa's like in the hot tub after calling Heather, which was a bad move. She's in there. She goes, and at the end of this, everyone's going to apologize to me. I'm like, no, they're not, because you're in the wrong, but you don't think you are. She is so good at being in her own world and not seeing the folly in her ways. The fact that Angie's like, you call me 3 times a day, and I'm sure those conversations are 45 minutes to an hour and a half, all about what's happening with Lisa Barlow. Never checks on Angie. So Angie says, I have to talk to my daughter. And then Lisa takes that as a slight, like, and then you use your daughter as an excuse. I'm like, what the fuck? No, she's just
and you can tell she's thinking about that constantly, too, that she was able to bring that up so organically. It's like, how often have you thought about her using her daughter as an excuse to get off the phone with you?
Lisa Barlow just rolls. She rolls calls nightly. Like, it's Angie, and then it's this person and this person.
She was talking seriously to JB Husband Boss about something, and we call him that because that's what his name is saved as on her phone. It's JB Husband Boss. But if you look at the conversation they had last year, she asked him a question and got all out that she wanted to get, and it was posed as a question. As JB Husband Boss is answering the question, she is texting somebody else and looks up and goes, what? You asked the question. Like, you asked him a question, he's responding to you. You don't even have the time. You don't have time for your husband. Like, she literally is in her own world. And the perfect depiction of that is her and JB are talking about flying coach versus first class. But before that, she's like, I'm so excited to get back to Henry. He's doing so well. Like, we just need to, like, I want to get back there. Fast forward, now that they have to fly coach, she's like, Henry's fine. We can go to LA and fly first class. It's like, oh,
she just told us 2 episodes. She was crying that Henry has no friends, nothing, like he's gaming all the time. And then all of a sudden he's like, no, he's good. He can take another day without us.
You can't, like, that's the whole thing is like, she's not pissed about flying coach because she has to sit and coach in a smaller seat. She's pissed because she's concerned that somebody's going to take a picture of her in coach. That's all that was about, because she is all about look, image, her own world. Like, that's where she lives, to the point where Henry was a priority to get back to him until it meant flying coach. And now Henry can take a back seat to my first class trip.
I had this thought too, is that, they did the cast trip to Milwaukee, Palm Springs, Milwaukee, really fun episodes. But I was wondering, like, are they picking lower budget places because they can't afford to fly Lisa Coach, like, overseas? I mean, first class overseas. They're like, fuck it, I guess we do Milwaukee. So. That's the only, she can get a first class there, Yeah,
I think we've got one more cast trip too, because they go to Mexico at some point this season. But look, Lisa is a brand of delusional that I love so much. It's what
That's
makes
a good way to put it.
It's exactly what makes Housewives so great. That when we were talking about this earlier, she sits down with Bronwyn to discuss what's going on at the lunch, and everybody else starts jumping in. And then we got to deflect over to Whitney, and then we're talking to Justin, and then JB's getting involved, and he shuts the whole thing down. Lisa walks away from that conversation. We got maybe 2 sentences strung together directed at Bronwyn. Bronwyn thought she was getting an apology, never got the apology. She goes over and talks to her husband and goes, I'm so excited to move forward with Bronwyn. I think we're good now. What? When?
After the volleyball game, she's like, me and Bronwyn are in a much better place. I'm like, based on what? You guys haven't talked yet.
But I think in her head, while maybe Whitney was talking, because then obviously she just shuts her brain off. Nobody actually needs to listen to Whitney, so that's a different line. But she's sitting there going through it in her head, and she probably had a full conversation with Bronwyn in her head, and I think she apologized. Bronwyn apologized to her, of course, but she's excited to move forward now that we've got this whole thing squashed.
See, by the way, if you have a show like Salt Lake City, I'll let you do cheesy Top Gun volleyball little scenes, but you can't do that on RHONY. Like, RHONY hasn't earned a Top Gun volleyball sketch within the episode, but I did accept it on Salt Lake City because it was another thing of like, sure, why not do a Kenny Loggins ripoff song of Playing with the Boys and like spray
the
each other
non-copyright
with
infringing
yeah.
Kenny. It was.
I was like, I hope Kenny Loggins sues the pants off of Salt Lake City.
That
was just Ken Logs. Ken Logs is the alternative.
Ken Logs playing with the girls.
Have you?
We said we walk out on our live shows. We walk out to Playing with the Boys, which is the song that plays when they play volleyball in Top Gun. So I was really hoping they were going to actually, spend a little money and get the song, but no, it was like a knockoff Danger Zone.
How much could Playing with the Boys be at this point when the movie came out in 1984? And I will say, to go that Top Gun one more, I said this on the recap this week, they all had their shirts off except for Todd. And just like Anthony Edwards as Goose didn't have his shirt off in that scene in Top Gun. Everybody else was like ripped. And so Todd is the Anthony Edwards, the Goose character, if we're going with the Top Gun.
Don't you dare despair.
Yeah,
Goose
no.
like
Goose actually did some things. Goose set a lot of people up for some good spikes. Todd didn't do anything.
Come on, but I feel like Todd might make a comeback. Who knows? He's warming up.
The mid-season trailer points to he's going to go further down.
Listen. Fine. Heather Gay, flop or not this season?
She has to be in the show to be a flop.
I feel like she wasn't in this past, I guess week and a half or like the past one. Okay. Well, it's felt fine. But
well, it felt fine.
It felt fine. By the way, I almost miss Mary Cosby more than I would ever miss Heather Gay at this point.
Yeah.
I never thought I would say that.
Mary, when she's been on screen, and we discussed the Robert Jr. stuff on our episode, just as far as like he seems to be going through and whether or not we should be privy to that. I did point out the one thing, and the more people I can say this to, the better, I think. But I think the big thing, based on what we've seen across the board when it comes to Mary and Robert Jr., we've seen in so many different franchises now struggles with alcoholism, substance abuse. And I will never say that that's what's going on because we don't know. But I do think that's something that we can. I don't think we need to keep seeing it. I think that if he needs help, he needs to go get help. And I appreciate what Mary's trying to do. It seems genuine. But I think the thing that I'm trying to take away from, and I hope audience members can take away as well, seeing it pop up on so many different shows, is that this is a very common thing and hopefully can help to erase the stigma behind it and maybe see that, all right, like a lot of people need help. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It doesn't mean anything negative. It just means they're in a bad place. And we all know somebody that's gone through it. I myself went through it. We all know somebody.
You're 6 years sober now, right?
Yes, sir, I am. And that's something I'm proud of. And I think that the more attention that can be called to that aspect, where it's like, look, we are watching multiple franchises where this is an issue, where people are dealing with this, people that they love are going through this. It humanizes it more. It's something that I can appreciate, that I can take away from it. At the same time, it's gotten to a point with Robert Jr. where it's like, he's clearly going through something. Hearing Mary talk about it is very real, very raw, because she's at the point now where like, I need to help him, but I don't know how. And I just don't want it to get to a point on TV where it's like, all right, we're seeing too much. I really hope he gets help. I hope Mary gets help. I hope they're all able to figure it out. But it's getting to that point for me where it's almost too much because it's too real.
That's interesting. And I was explaining to the audience, because we talked about Robert Jr. at first, because I said, if you don't know, because Robert Jr. now is in a rehab facility. He got arrested. There's a whole string of things that you can read about. But if you watch those scenes in the beginning before Mary starts getting super worried, you would almost think of them as comedic in a sense. And I wanted to tell the audience, guys, this is actually going to be a storyline that you're going to see. And I kind of think, depending on what happens in this back half of the season, like, yeah, of course, I don't want it to go too far, but at the same time, I think this is a really important depiction, potentially, depending on how they handle it in the back half. Also, it gives Mary Cosby, it makes us finally empathize with something human in her that we have not been able to see thus far. And so, not that I think she's using Robert Jr. for a storyline at all, but I do think I am interested to see how they handle this. And, obviously with the midseason trailer, there's already a scene where Mary says, I've got to stay here and, be with my son. So obviously she's not going on another cast trip at some point. So it does get worse before it gets better. But I do find it interesting because I think people were waking up to the fact that, they were thinking this is potentially just a lazy teen,
Yeah, no, there's more to it. And I think that you're right. And if they handle it, this is where I get worried because they have up until this point, Bravo as a whole, not done a great job when it comes to the substance abuse problems. With the Karen of it all, like somehow Karen is still performing so well and like she's entertaining, sure, but she's pretty much denying her second DUI. I thought the Shannon stuff went way too far with the other cast members. There's been multiple instances where they have not done their job the right way in covering this topic. You're right. If they do this the right way and show the journey of it, and then let's say Robert Jr. gets the help he needs, he comes out doing better. We get to see him next year as a rehabilitated person. He's feeling better, feeling good about himself. That would be awesome. I would love that so much.
But is TV the place to be? Is TV the place to be when you're going through something like that?
Right? That's the issue. Does he want this journey on TV? That's a big question that he's not capable of answering right now in his current headspace, right? And if they handle it the wrong way and they try to make light of it at certain points, or they try to not navigate this with very gentle hands, I think it could be detrimental to the person going through it. And at the end of the day, the most important thing when it comes to these issues, substance abuse problems, is making sure the person going through it is getting what they need to get through it. And I don't want this to become a detriment to Robert Jr. I want this to be a positive thing, and I want Bravo to do well with it. I want them to handle it the right way. And if they do, it would be awesome. What I've seen from them when it comes to these problems, they don't tend to do the right thing. They don't tend to handle it the right way. So I'm very apprehensive about the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, and vulnerability is not something that we've ever seen Mary Cosby do or offer us on screen. So I think that in a nutshell, she must have had a sit down with the producers, with Bravo, and said, look, this is what's going on over here. This is what I want to be able to show. So I think that where she's coming from is definitely a good intention. She probably wants to show the audience what's going on here. Maybe raise awareness. There could be some elements of that involved, obviously. So I think that this was somewhat well thought out. I don't think this is a throwaway. I don't think this is just a storyline for her. I think we should just take it for what it is and just say, you know what, this does humanize her. This gives us a lot more behind the scene for what Mary's going through, and she's offering that to the audience. And we're going to have to just take that in stride. And like Steele said, as long as we don't turn it into something else or make light of it in some point in time, or it could even come up on the cast. I don't think I see any of those things coming into play, not with these ladies. And I think that it's going to be a good thing.
Well, to go to a more humorous as we wrap up Salt Lake, Brittany, I think is the Brittany Jared saga. I find hysterical. Jared Osmond loves
what a loser.
Trey. Well, I mean, like truly. And the thing is, I think it's a real blow to his ego that he's potentially getting made fun of a little bit because he's treated as a suave, like almost godlike figure in Salt Lake City because he's an Osmond of all things. And I think that's innately hysterically funny. And then I was kind of sad that Brittany wasn't on this trip with Jared because I would have loved to have known their favorite sexual position when they played that game.
Soaking, by the way. It's soaking. He's
Mormon,
so it's probably soaking.
No, that would, by the way, John Barlow almost said that he enjoyed soaking because he was like, when Lisa's on top. And then he goes, oh, I meant bouncing. I'm like, no shit, you meant bouncing. I didn't think she was just like soaking there, like...
I didn't take that as a soaking reference, but I'm so glad you brought that up. That's fucking hysterical.
We usually try to dig deep into those soaking references. Damn, I'm so upset that we missed that one.
It was right there for you guys. I was like, oh my God, a Mormon soaker. But Jared Osmond would have had one of like in front of the mirror, like, where he can watch himself.
He's Patrick Bateman in American Psycho watching himself. And I think that like the Jared Osmond thing has been such a delight to cover because I love when there's a douchey straight guy on these shows because we get to just fucking eviscerate them like no holds barred. Watching this D-list Osmond who lived in the guardhouse on Osmond Lane, like he didn't even have an actual house. He got like the last shack on the left. This dude has done nothing but be born with the last name Osmond, and watching him gaslight this poor woman who she's so naive and blissfully ignorant, and it's fine, and she's great for TV. I love Brittany, but you're watching this dude manipulate her time and time again based on what? Who the fuck do you think you are, pal? We see, like, why would you agree to do this show? Do you think this is going to be a good
I think it's ego. I think it's ego. I think they think they're so great that they will exude greatness no matter where they go.
Who's
so
they?
I think
Donnie and Marie? They're not. He's not
Yes,
Donnie and Marie. He's Jared.
By the way, Donnie Osmond did an interview standing up for Jared, which I thought was hysterical in so many ways. But at the same time, and by the way, Brittany, very funny as well, because she immediately fires up the dating apps again and again. So she has like a string of dates, even though she's just strung out on Jared Osmond all the time, which I love.
Well, my girlfriend just showed me something before we started recording this. Brittany had just posted a couple of stories. One story was her, Heather, and someone else all hanging out. The very next one was Donnie Osmond. So she's still hovering around in there. She can't get out.
Wait, like hanging out with Donnie Osmond, or just a photo
I
of
think
Donnie Osmond?
She was at an event that he was up speaking. So maybe she's floating around somewhere. She might be trying to get back.
If she's going to events. If
Oh,
she's
yeah.
going to events just to see Osmond, that's Salt Lake City behavior. That's Housewives behavior. Okay, Potomac, you just mentioned Karen Huger. Karen has made this entire season about not being able to tell us anything about the incident, that we all know what happened in the incident. And this is, obviously a recurring pattern. I mean, it's very interesting if you compare her and Shannon, because Shannon immediately went and said, hey, look, I did this. I'm so ashamed. This is horrible. And everybody eviscerated her this season again and again. Karen, it takes a completely different approach. I can't talk about it. No pictures, please. You'll
know my truth. You'll know my truth.
Yeah, and God will protect me, and and I love Karen Huger, but I will say it seems obvious what happened. So it almost, and you don't want it to become comedic, but there is comedic undertones when she keeps using these kind of same excuses again and again. And I do wonder if there will ever be a reckoning for Karen, because I don't think anybody wants to see her truly hurt or in a bad place. But I would love a real conversation with her about that. I mean, she had a little bit of one with her son this past week's episode.
I think that Bravo started this off on a very interesting track with that reenactment. The reenactment was comedic. The reenactment was funny, and we felt bad laughing about it. We weren't sure where we were going to go this season. And the fact that in and out every single episode, she's still just denying it. We've gone through, it's like a roller coaster. We start thinking that this is funny, and then we're like, oh, wait, there's some real implications in here. We should be worried about Karen. And then somebody will make a joke, and we're like, no, it's still funny again. And we keep going back to that reenactment. So it's like they started this off on such a different path from what we were used to seeing with Shannon, that we just weren't sure what the hell was going on. We thought this was going to be another one of those types of seasons where everybody's calling out her behavior and she's just trying to just take in as much as possible, maybe taking some responsibility. And instead, she has gone completely the opposite direction, acting like it didn't happen, saying that she's going to find out who her true friends are based on if you're going to ask me about this or not. And the best part of all is you throw in this newbie in Stacy, who is so oblivious to everything, but she seems like the nicest person in the world, that every new piece of information blows her away.
Stacy's dealing with TJ. She's dealing with a sexless relationship, so she's already on a different. By the way, Stacy and TJ this week's episode, that was an interesting conversation where he immediately gets shaded by the other women of like, those people you're around and you're like, yeah, they don't have sex. And I was like, damn. That's dead on, because this guy does, and the guy says, God, you don't need that. Sex is such a minor part. It's about the relationship. And I am so curious what's going to happen to their relationship, because I think Stacey's a great addition. I just also, it's interesting to watch Housewives catch up to the show that they're on.
Yeah. And I think with TJ in particular, and just to wrap up the Karen thing of it all, it's peculiar to watch, because yes, we all know exactly. And by the way, what makes it worse is this is DUI number 2. That's not the first one. So it makes it even more damning. And the fact that it does bug me, again, in recovery, to watch her skate around and act like she's not the problem here, because if you just take accountability for it, it speaks volumes to who you are. And the fact that you're relying on your truth coming out. Who are my true friends? Your true friends are the ones that are going to hold you to the fire and be like, no, you fucked up. Just admit it and we can move forward and you can get your life together. But instead, she is so good at being the grand dame and kind of getting way out of things and still being entertaining. I find myself laughing at scenes. I'm like, no, that's not funny, but because it's her, it is funny. And
Yeah.
we'll see how it plays out. And eventually, our court date, according to last episode, is 7 days away. So we'll get more info watching it. But the TJ thing, which is the totally different end of the spectrum, it's so strange to watch. And I don't like to disparage anybody's religion. What you believe is what you believe.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fine. But to watch their interactions where you can't even humor her when she's like, ooh, I want to give you, and I'm like, and she's like, a spa day. And then he's like, okay.
So
And she's like, I'm flirting, TJ. I'm flirting. He's like, ew, yucky. It's like, dude, just because you're like a devout Christian and you're not going to have sex and you have to, by the way, hammer it home to this poor woman over and over and over again. He's like, we can talk about it, but it's not happening. And all I wanted was when she turned around, her picture was to have drawn a picture of his dick. I can't tell you how much I wanted her to just draw his dick and be like, this is how I see you.
How many times have we had like some like claymation of like, all right, I want you to sculpt your vagina, or we're gonna write this down and we're gonna draw a picture of what you think your vagina looks like, but you're gonna throw some flowers and stuff around there.
That was
Mormon
Wives.
Hilarious.
The dick would have been really funny. And
yeah, we're throwing that in there.
But that would have been hysterical, and that would have been like, but the fact that he can't even broach the topic, the fact that when we see them in the gym and she goes to hug him, he seems physically uncomfortable. There's a lot more here than like, I don't think it's
squat
just
down on him.
Yeah,
Well,
but
and
that's okay.
I don't know
But then
what's
you can't
going
hug.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't like to speculate about people's sexuality, obviously, but I will say when they put these things out on the show, they know what they're doing.
They know exactly what they're
the producers know what they're doing as well. And I was trying to go through things in my head. I was like, well, sometimes, people are weird with their bodies and, maybe, but this dude's ripped. The dude's
He's
like
shredded.
completely buff. He loves to show off his biceps. He's like, he wore a
see-through
shirt on Watch What
shirt on
Happens
What
Live.
Happens Live.
So
Thank you.
it's not the body. So I would care. And then the Mia Gordon Inc. thing, which will,
oh my God,
that's another thing because Gordon came in and he was like, I'm not doing this with you on camera, and then revealed, there were 2 infidelities in our marriage, and you got rid of a baby through one of them. And then also, there was so much with Mia this week in regards to that. And then also Karen kind of trying to defend herself by throwing Mia under the bus and saying that she had to go to rehab for an opioid addiction. There was a lot with
Karen.
Mia. Way to weaponize that. But Karen won't talk about it. Mia talked about it, like said, this is what happened. I got addicted, from this. Then I found chiropractic healthcare or whatever. But at least she's okay. But the Gordon Inc. thing, where are you guys on that?
It's bizarre. It's one of those things that we talk about pretty much every week, and it falls under the category of should we be privy to this, and also is this going to be good for Jeremiah down the line? Are we going to want to see this? Are we going to go back to, all right, here's when we figured out your parentage. We had to figure out who your dad was, but if you really want to watch it, we've got a reality TV show that you can watch if you want to go back on Peacock and just get after it. It's something that we need to see because they threw it out there for us. Now I need to see every interaction between the two of them. I don't care what it costs. I don't care what happens in each episode. I need to see how they're doing this, especially with Gordon living in the same building. It is a bizarre situation that we can only get on a housewife show, on a reality TV show, and I need to see every little detail of it. I don't think it's good for Jeremiah. I don't think it's good for Mia. I don't think it's good for anybody involved. But now that you've given it to us, we're like a dog with a bone. You got to give us everything. I need to see it all.
Pandora's box, and now at the reunion, I need Maury Povich to come out with a manila envelope and be like, you are not the father.
Listen, I think Rebecca Minkoff is the mother, potentially. They're going to do a prank on RHONY and say Jeremiah's Rebecca's. No, I just think it's a very, that's always like a good sign if I get really awkward watching a scene where I'm just like kind of in my chair, kind of like, oh God. And, Gordon, you just think of all these thoughts of like, here's a man getting older, having to deal with his ego, having to deal and like trying to burn things down potentially, but keep it cool for the kids. And none of that stuff is really truly being successful and happening. So I think that's interesting. So anyways, I think Potomac is really good this season compared to last season. And then I guess we'll finally end on OC because this will be the final episode this week of a 3-part reunion. And I thought personally, Salt Lake and OC have been my favorite. Salt Lake on a completely bizarre level, and OC, I've looked forward to watching it every week, but to me, it's very dark. It's very personal and dark. What do you guys think about OC this season and the reunions?
I think that OC, we talked about it because, like we said, we hate watched last. A lot of people liked last season. We did not. We didn't care for it. So we hate watched it the whole time, and people loved listening to us hate watch it, which thanks,
Wait,
guys.
have you ever hate watched into loving watching something? Have you ever hate watched and you're like, oh, I love this all of a sudden?
Not
yet.
yet. Wait, actually one show, and it was Succession, because I didn't quite understand the dynamic of every character.
It takes a second.
It took 2 or 3 episodes, and then I absolutely loved it. That's it.
Yep.
Okay, that's fair. But
wow, you just compared wait. So I just want to point out to everybody, you just compared Succession to the Real Housewives.
Sure
so
did.
That's okay.
That's range.
Yeah, that's
that
range.
Is range.
With this season, it was, I mean, yes, it was dark, and there was moments with the Shannon thing and the DUI and coming after her, and I made a bunch of TikToks and reels about that, speaking about how detrimental I thought it was to her recovery, whatever that means, and everybody trying to label her an alcoholic or this or that or the other thing. Like, just because you get a DUI doesn't mean you're necessarily an alcoholic. We said multiple times, does she need to reevaluate her relationship with alcohol? Unequivocally, yes. Should she be drinking? Probably not. Is that for us to say? Absolutely not. It is her journey and her journey alone to figure out what's going on. What we did see was time and time again her take accountability for it. What we did see was a whole entire season where Shannon was not a mess. She didn't have a scene where she was being drunk and belligerent. So that's growth in my eyes. We saw her addressing things, creating boundaries, applying what she apparently learned in that 30-day treatment center to her actual life. What we saw on the other side was multiple women trying to throw her back down this hole and sabotage it. And for what? For what gain other than, see, I told you she was an alcoholic? Like, that's literally the only payoff that Tamara could have gotten there, is like, oh, see, she does drink too much. She is an alcoholic. It's like, well, yeah, because you kept telling her she was. And then you have Alexis coming out of nowhere trying to be relevant with Johnny fucking J, the biggest dweeb in the history of Bravo, trying to throw more shade to it. So that part got tough for me at times, but at the same time was captivating. We talked about the fact that we had 17 episodes of this season. Every single episode hit. There was not one clunker, and we don't get that very often. They went 17-0. The first 2 reunion episodes were great. They've done such a good job of holding our attention, of giving us stuff to really invest in, giving us villains to really, really hate in Alexis Bellino and Tamara Judge. Watching the fall of Emily over the last half of the season was wild.
Talk about those espresso, Emily and those espresso martinis, by the way. Keep an eye out. Every episode, an espresso martini and Emily, if you noticed. I was like, another espresso martini. So it was interesting, Tamara especially. I mean, she was over drinking in a lot of the scenes. Not that we need to point, but by the way, not that we need to point that out, but if you're going to point that out about Shannon, it is up on the table to discuss in a way. And I do find it interesting about Tamara and Emily's relationship, because I really like Emily, but I do feel like sometimes Tamara kind of gives her a little bit of carte blanche to be a little bit more Tamara-esque in scenes with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this season has done so many different things where we weren't sure what we were going to get going into the season with all the off-season stuff with Shannon. We thought that this was going to continue to get darker and darker. And then obviously it started off kind of like that, where people were calling attention to it and Tamara was going after Shannon. And we thought that Shannon handled herself really well. Obviously, some point in the middle, she kind of lulled out. But even going back to this last reunion episode, I thought that she absolutely stood her ground and eviscerated Alexis. She destroyed Alexis, and Alexis had no friends up on that stage, which was such a relief.
Even Emily couldn't even go there.
Emily was going after
Tamara.
Her.
I mean, I love that Tamara and Heather are the two people that, well, I mean, Katie and Jen to a degree as well, but they're newer. But like Tamara and Heather, to have the relationship that they've had with Jesus Jugs in the past, to now backtrack on that relationship. And you're cold busted because Shannon did have a text from Alexis instigating the initial lawsuit with Jim Bellino, period. I'm so tired of people trying to back, like, once they're caught in, you don't even have to call it a lie. Once you've like gotten the actual information that you were incorrect, the doubling and tripling down, I hate. And for Alexis to tell Andy, if I'm not going to be able to talk, I'm just going to get out of here, then get out then. Goodbye.
Yeah, kick rocks. Like, she has been a disaster, start to finish, zero redeemable
But do you want to see her
qualities.
back next season?
No, I don't need her back. I don't need her or Johnny J back.
I don't
They
think
didn't
we
do
even
anything.
needed her this season, to be honest.
No.
Everything else that was going on, we didn't actually need her there because she was a one-trick pony.
Yeah, she said the same thing episode
did.
after episode.
I don't think need is the right word, but I do think it's been an interesting device because if you didn't have Alexis, Shannon would truly have had to answer to more of the behavior from running into the house and the drinking. But with Alexis there, it almost made people empathize with Shannon a little bit more because even the audience was like, dude, how much can she withstand? This is wild.
Yeah,
You're going to literally drive her to drink. So I thought it was an interesting experiment. And now next season, if Alexis does come back, you're going to potentially see a wedding season with Johnny J. And
Nope. Fuck Johnny J.
That
That guy is such a loser. He is such a fucking loser, and he goes on camera with his stupid jackets and his fucking scarves and that big ass cross, thinking that he literally looks like
he's
Bono
gotten
on
into
stage
jewelry
at the
later.
fucking Sphere.
No, it's Johnny Depp. He's Johnny Depp. He's like going into his Johnny Depp era.
That's it.
Yeah.
But he's not Johnny Depp. You're Johnny J. You're a dork, and you literally said, Shannon, bringing me in the spotlight ruined my life. And what do? You shack up with another housewife to get back on the show, and then you won't sign a non-disparagement clause when you're offered the full amount. He is the biggest loser. He needs to fuck off. Alexis
and he loves, by the way, he says he doesn't, they say they don't love the attention. They love the attention. And for Alexis to say at that reunion, I'm a TV star. I've been on 5 TV shows. Like, these people do keep score. And I've been now to a couple of events where John Jansen has walked that red carpet. And I was talking to Danny Pellegrino last week, and we were talking like, listen, at those red carpet events, you can choose not to walk. You can let Alexis walk by herself. He always walks. So there is this element that you can't argue he wants to be seen.
You don't have to sign the release on Bravo to be on the show. You don't have to sign it. You wanted to sign it.
We would have let it go. I swear to God, John Jansen would have been mentioned a couple of times, but if he hadn't dated Alexis and come back on the show, it really would not have been brought up. He exploded himself into not an anti-hero, just to a straight up villain at this point. And I mean, for somebody that says they don't like the attention when you're with Shannon, I feel like it's 10 times worse than whenever he was with Shannon as it is now.
Yeah, he made himself look so much. You want everyone to think you're a good guy. I don't know why that's such a sticking point for him. You have blown that out of the water entirely. Nobody thinks you're a good guy now because of you, because you wouldn't shut the hell up. We all think you're the worst. You're one of the worst house husbands ever. And this same franchise had a man that faked cancer. And he's up there with Brooks. Like, you're literally up there with a guy that faked cancer. And that's
even
just for being
Brooks is like,
shit.
Too far, buddy. Too far. That's too far, Johnny.
John, we don't do that.
Oh my God! I bet John Jansen and Jared Osmond text each other. Like, really?
You
look great.
We said that they're definitely friends. They're absolutely friends. They feed off of each other.
But what we did get from this season, that is my highlight for the season, was the uprising of Jen. Jen had a phenomenal season. She is a top tier housewife, and she's here to stay. All of the kudos to her, because holy shit.
Watching her, like we said, Shannon kind of had a really good moment taking down Alexis in the second part of the reunion, but nothing in comparison to Jen Pedranti walking in London, taking Tamara down, because I love characters like that are innately nice, but it's not like moments like that show that they're not complete idiots, because she nailed her. She knew exactly what to say. She knew exactly how to combat it. Like, even Heather Dubrow, it was like pushing Heather Dubrow off. Like, yeah, whatever, chill out. No, Tamara, this is why you are a straight up liar. And I thought, oh my God. And yes, she probably has some issues. Ryan does seem questionable in some ways, but that's great, because that makes her an overall person that has highs and lows, and I'm so excited to watch her journey in seasons to come.
No, she absolutely solidified herself right there. We said that she gets main orange next year after what Heather did, teaming up with Tamara at the very end. Heather, we don't really understand Heather because she's a bit of an enigma now. You can just be Heather Dubrow. That's all you have to do. Nobody's going to complain about that. We know who you are. You have a couple of comments here and there. You're going to get into some fights, of course, but you do not need to team up with Tamara. And doing that, and I love that Jen walking into that room, even Heather going to the confessional. I love to see this. This gets me going for Jen. I love to see it. Yeah, she was defending Tamara at the time, but yeah.
No, and to give, like, the thing that Heather, I'm so weirded out by, it's like, You're Heather Dubrow. Who gives a shit if anybody says you had paparazzi called on you? Like, honestly, you giving that oxygen makes me think, like, that actually makes me think, like, what is going on here? Because you're wealthy, you have a good family, you support good charities, you do all of these things. Why do you care? Do not, like, you literally, like you said, you could just laugh it off and say little funny rich person things, and you could maintain your status as fancy pants. Why get into the muck and the mire when you do not have the facts or evidence?
I'll show you. Shooter, why are they continuing this facade of the paparazzi?
Oh, because Terry absolutely had an affair with somebody else.
Oh shit!
Ryan,
I wanted to wait, guys. Anybody listening? That was Shooter saying that. That was not me, and that was not Steele. That was Shooter saying that. So when they pull this clip for an episode of Orange County next season, that is Shooter.
Look, it's
Can you throw an allegedly in there, pal?
Just to protect
allegedly.
It is exactly what you just said. The more that she keeps bringing it up, the more that she has a sticking point with Katie, who she should not have a sticking point with. You can ignore Katie. She's a new housewife. Just ignore her, and it might get under her skin, and then she'll go away. That's all you have to do. You're Heather fucking Dubrow. Why are you talking about this goddamn paparazzi thing? We would have let it die last year. I know that Katie brought it up in the first episode, but we would have let it die last year happily because we were so tired of it. But the more you talk about it, and you keep doing it at the reunion too, it just confirms all of our suspicions. That's all it is.
And just her disgusting, like she's so, all of her reactions at the reunion have been disgusted, like looks of disgust, like
She even said disgusting when they brought up the children, and it's like, dude, we're really gonna go toe to toe over what a potential 19-year-old babysitter said or what 8-year-olds said. That's where we've gotten to. Like, who cares? Who knows what happened? By the way, Emily definitely talks shit about you at home. Without a doubt,
it's okay.
she talks shit about you at home.
That's
fine.
just life. That is life. The fact that kind of minutia like throws Heather makes me feel like, God, you're supposed to be a legend. Like, why is little minutia bothering you at all? Like, period.
The newbie got under her skin. And what she ended up doing, she shot herself in the foot with this whole thing because Katie had a terrible start. She was not interesting. She came out flat. She swung at Heather Dubrow and seemingly missed, and that could have been it. But instead, because Heather kept going for her, what she did was embolden Katie. Katie teamed up with Jen. The Jen and Katie friendship is delightful to watch. I love that friendship. What she did was give Katie a second season. Now she's here to stay because you, Heather, of all people, the first person to turn your nose up and walk away because it's beneath you, you have given her the power, and we're here for Team Katie and Jen. We're here for the left side of the room. We hate the right side of the room now.
It's funny how the world works. It's funny. Well, anyways, this has gone way too fast. I've taken up so much of your time. This is, I mean, we could do this for days and days and days like we do on our own shows.
We know that.
But finally, Beverly Hills comes back tonight. You guys are going to be covering that on your show, right?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Very excited.
Any predictions? Anything that you want to see or hoping to see this season?
Here's what I don't want to see. Okay. If we're doing the Morgan Wade thing again, then we need to do it right. Okay. If she's back and it's all these question marks, what's going on?
I want to see him naked. I want to see him naked kissing.
Didn't say that.
Didn't say that. Ryan said that.
That was Shooter. That was Shooter that said that. That was Shooter that said that.
No, I just need to see the dynamic. I know she's now speaking publicly about talking to her daughters about her sexuality, which is, again, that's a personal thing. I'm not saying that she needs to talk about coming out of the closet on TV. I'm just saying if it's going to be a sticking point with Morgan Wade, we need to discuss it more. What's going on with you guys? I don't need Erica Jane's earrings to come back up because it was just ruled that she has to give them back again. Don't need to see that. What I would love to see is seeing this group do their own thing and coming together, maybe some teams form. I don't want to keep rehashing the same shit that we've seemingly been doing for the past couple of years. I'm very excited to see Dorit stand on her own and see her go up against everybody. I want her to get to prime Dorit back in the day where she can give out some shit, take some shit, talk some shit. That's what I need to see. I need to see her and PK and their dynamic fall apart. There's houses getting foreclosed on right now. Like there's so much here that if they do it right, because last season sucked. I hated last season. This is a chance for Beverly Hills to show us why it's a cornerstone show. Everyone get back to work. Put your hard hat on. Let's get to work because I'm excited. There's a lot here, but we got to do it right, guys. Everyone's got to do it right.
What about you, Shooter?
I'm going to go a little outside the box. Obviously, everybody's really excited to see Kyle versus Dorit and see what happens there. I didn't see a whole lot of Erika Jayne in that trailer. So I don't know what her role is going to be like on this show. And I don't know what the future holds for Erika Jayne if she's going to go that route. We saw a lot of Sutton, not a lot of Garcelle either. But Erika, I feel like last year, and look, like Steele said, last year sucked. I thought that Erika kind of took a step back where she wasn't getting involved in a lot of things. Obviously, Denise Richards gets involved. Of course, you're going to step up a little bit. But if there's nothing really going on as terms of a storyline for her, other than she's just still trying to figure out her way through life now that she's single and she's not, quote unquote, she's not rich anymore, is what she just said. Those types of things, I don't know what that's going to look like for her, and I don't know where that interest level is going to be. So I'm curious to see what the future holds for Erika Jayne.
Well, these guys are going to watch. They're going to watch the screener tonight. I watched the screener last week, and it's the first episode. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think, and I always got to be careful because it depends on when I watch it, like my own personal mood. Yep. But it was kind of a weird vibe, and obviously the Dorit Kyle stuff starts pretty much immediately. And to your point, Erika Jayne, unfortunately, the first time I think we see her in this episode, she's shopping for fancy furniture at the Pacific Design Center, and I was like, "Of course you are." It's like we're forgetting anything. Like she's already spent thousands in the first 10 minutes of the episode. But I guess I'm looking for. I don't know. God, what do I look for from these shows? I don't need everybody to get along. I think Dorit is going to have an unusually messy season, and I understand why. I think that'll be very interesting to watch. I get worried, though, because Dorit has not been one to be able to know to use her words effectively. So I think it's going to be even messier. She's not going to Jen Pedranti Kyle at any point. It's going to be very sloppy, and I think it's going to make her look potentially bad when she's going through something that is very devastating in the loss of this relationship with PK, which is already a big topic in the first episode. And then I also think that Sutton might be a little comfortable where she might go full villain. I would be interested to see what that looks like and see if she can withstand things. But I mean, I don't think anybody will ever be able to reach Kyle in a way that will be able to like Heather Dubrow. I don't think you're ever going to be able to like Katie to Heather Dubrow. I don't think you're going to be able to do that to Kyle in any way. So
you didn't think that you could do it to Heather Dubrow though either.
I didn't, but I think Kyle, I don't know. I look at Kyle and Heather a little, I don't know. Now I got to, well, see, you guys, you make me think, and that's why you listen to BravBros. You guys, BravBros, they're covering every Bravo podcast, Bravo TV show, all the Housewives shows. Obviously, when Vanderpump and the Valley come back, you'll probably cover those. Oh yeah. Jax is already Jaxing, so that's great. And you'll probably start live shows in 2025 again at some point. But what you can do right now, you can go leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That is always a big help, and it's free. You don't have to do anything for that. You can listen to their ad breaks on their podcasts and support their advertisers. And you also, do you have Patreon or do you have what is your service?
We have BravBros members. It's memberful. So if you click the link in our Instagram bio, it's $5 for the month or $50 for the year. You get an exclusive Bravo news episode every week. We do a community Zoom on once a month where you can talk to us face to face for like an hour and a half. They tend to run long too because we're not good at keeping things short. So again, you can click the link in our Instagram bio. And the other big one, because this one's harder, is YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Oh, YouTube! I'll put the YouTube link as well. Well, anyways, this has been too long since I talked to you guys last time. This is always so easy. Shows how professionals. You guys are like full on professionals now. So
oh yeah,
what?
This is amazing. Yeah. But hopefully we'll talk again in the very near future.
We definitely will.
We'll have you on our show next. Very soon. We'll get that in the books.
Guys' nights!
Guys' night! I got
Come on,
do
it. Shoot her, do it. Do it.
Guys' night!
Okay, there we go.